It's that historic day, the British public's perceptions of Camilla have transformed. She's gone from being the so-called third person in Charles and Diana's marriage to a valued member of the royal family. The nation's acceptance of Camilla is evident in a new poll that's out today. It shows that nearly half of us think she should take the title of Queen when Charles takes the throne. That's compared to just 7% a decade ago. So how did the Duchess win over a pretty sceptical Britain? Here to discuss this now is the royal journalist Roya Nikar. It's good to see you tonight, Roya. And what a transformation in just 10 years. How has it happened?
I mean, it's a staggering figure to go from 7% to nearly half the population. I think twofold. There's been a very concerted effort by the palace to gently, I think, introduce her to royal duties. It wasn't a sort of onslaught. And the fact that she just is a very down-to-earth, natural person, I think that really comes across in all her public engagements. And the public have just grown to accept her and love her.
Because, of course, you've met her on numerous occasions. And what's interesting is she hasn't changed, but the public have in terms of their opinion of her. She's always been the same.
Exactly. She really hasn't changed in the 10 years that she's really been in the spotlight as you know, on Prince Charles's arm. But, you know, she's a really good crack. She's really normal. She can talk about work, life. She's a mother, a grandmother, and I think she's just struck a chord with the public.
We see her out and about a lot. I mean, she certainly works hard, doesn't she? She's also transformed Charles to a certain extent. Would you agree with that?
I think that's the other thing the public have picked up on. He was seen, you know, he had these very turbulent years after the death of Diana in 1997, where he was quite obviously a lonely figure who wasn't completely happy in his personal life, and she has kind of transformed him. He's so much more comfortable on public engagements. He's so clearly happy in her presence with her supporting him. That's another thing I think the public have picked up on. They see the impact she's had on him, and that's turned things around too.
And I suppose if we go back 10 years, which actually wasn't that long ago, it was pretty transformative in terms of their wedding, wasn't it, Roya? Because both of them were divorcees, both of them very, very high-profile members of the royal family. You probably wouldn't have got that a few years ago.
No, and of course, you know, when people think of royal divorce, they think back to the abdication crisis and that threw the monarchy into absolute disarray. So to go from that to have the future King of England and probably the future Queen as both divorcees, huge step in the monarchy's development.
She looked great that day, didn't she? I mean, they've had a massive history, haven't they? We've got that famous photograph of them when they were caught chatting. I think it was at a polo match years and years ago. I suppose it's true love, isn't it, for those two?
It's the other fairy tale. You know, everyone wanted to see Princess Diana as the great fairy tale, but actually now Charles has married the woman he's loved for, you know, more than 30 years.
So what do you think is going to happen? Of course, we're not wishing for that day to happen, but when Charles does eventually become king, what role do you think she will take?
Charles has made it quite clear in interviews that he would like to see her as Queen. The title, you know, Queen Consort, was something that the palace came up with 10 years ago in order to, I suppose, tame the public who weren't that accepting of her. 10 years on, we see this poll now. The public do accept her. I'm pretty certain she'll be Queen when Charles becomes king.
Do you think she wants that role? Has anyone asked her?
Yes, she's been asked many times. She's clever to know she doesn't comment on that, but I should think she'd probably want to be on parity with her king, her husband.
OK, Roya, thank you so much for your thoughts this evening.